Welcome everybody to today's video. This is it. This is the last part of this multi-part series on the irregular preterite verbs. So without any more ado, let's jump right in here and see what we have today. GAR, GAR, and ZAR. Now, that might not make a whole lot of sense because looking at those are not specific verbs by themselves. They're not, okay? Because these ones apply to a lot of different verbs that end in these different ways. So any verb in Spanish that ends in car, gar, or zar is going to be a bit irregular in the preterite tense, but only in one specific form, and that is the yo form. Now the reason for this is because of the yo ending in the preterite tense, and that is the a. Because if you take a C or a G and you pair it with an A, the pronunciation changes a little bit here. Normally, if you have a CA or a CO or a CU, things like that, then it is a hard C sound, the K sound. But if you pair it with a E or an I, it switches from a K to a say. So this one would be say. So for example, if we had a verb like buscar, then you would go from having busé to buscaste to buscó, everything else like that. So you switch the pronunciation a little bit there from say to ko, and it's all over the place. So they don't like having one of them be a soft S sound and then the other is a hard K sound, and that switching back and forth is not what is desirable. So they don't want to have that, in which case they go from this to K. That way, buscar goes to busqué. And you still have the ending and you still have the same sound, the K sound that you would be expecting, and everything is really nice. This goes back to the fact that Spanish was a spoken language first before it was a written language. So they had that pronunciation. They knew that this is what it should sound like, and then they fit the spelling to match that sound, which actually makes a whole lot of sense. That same thing is going to happen down here. So the G does something very similar. If it's paired up with a GA, GO, GU, it's a G sound. But if it's paired up with a GE or a GI, it's a H sound, he. So things like gente, things like that. So now, if we're pairing it up with this E, it's going to switch, and they don't want to be switching back and forth, just like we explained. So now, they're going to put a GU. So if you had the word jugar, and you were saying I played, then it is going to go to jugué. And for example, this one up here, buscar is going to go to busqué. Straightforward. Easy, right? And since this is only happening in one and the pronunciation is really not changing, this is not big of a deal. The last one that we have to talk about is the ZAR, ZAR. So this could be in a word like cazar, to hunt. So if you're going on a hunting trip and you wanted to say I hunted buffalo or anything like that, you're going to have to say I did it. Now, this one is probably the most different because in these cases, we got rid of the C because they didn't want that same sound. This one is actually going to switch the C in. And we're going to have instead of the Z, switch it over to a C. Say. So this would be casse. I don't know why. The pronunciation is similar enough that I would think that you could have this Z right here, but for whatever reason, nope, they want to have a C, so that is what they'll have. There you go, though. GAR, GAR, and ZAR, all of these AR endings, because, again, we go to the E. That is, that's the end. There we go. We made it. All of the preterite irregular verbs are now at your fingertips. And you are a master of these irregularities. So practice with them, master them, dominate them, put them into practice all over the place, and let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will see you in class. Adios.